Namaste and welcome, beloved mighty companions, to this holy circle of infinite light of being. There we go. Try to get the camera out of shot. Infinite light. What could be more precious than starting with infinite light? Revelation. The revelation that infinite being is always here. Infinite love is always here until there's a denial of it. It seems so far away, yet it's our desire to experience it. It's far away. This morning I was contemplating with Jesus on minutia. And I've talked about this a couple of times, so it's for me to see. And Jesus taking over all the minutia. And then I realized not only, because at first it seems he's taking over the minutia in form, taking over any kind of details. God is your secretary. And then I realized he's not, all the minutia is every idea we've ever had about ourselves is minutia, is the minutia that he's taking over. But because we're so used to form, it'll start there until we can fully accept the miracle for ourselves, that nothing we ever thought can ever change identity. This is precious indeed. So as we look with the light of divine being and have Jesus take over every bit of minutia, lesson 225, any ideas we thought about ourselves. God is my Father and his Son loves him. Jesus, are there any desire to have an experience in which I do not love my Father, that I'm actually afraid of the Father? To miscreate that experience. I'm willing to see it. That infinite love can be the light, infinite light in here can be so discombobulated that it can forget itself and forget its one purpose, which is celebration of infinite love. And I'm willing to see it. Willing to see the denial that God is my Father. That I can usurp God's plan for perfect happiness for myself, take it over, say no to it. Willing to see that, saying no. Father, I must return your love for me, for giving and receiving are the same. Yeah, that's really so helpful because I can see there's an idea that, okay, we're sitting here waiting for the Father to come and we have to wait. And really, if giving and receiving are the same, giving love or extending love to the Father is love for the self. Asking Jesus, can we do that now? He says, yes, of course. It's love loving itself. And you have given all your love to me. So when we withhold love from ourselves, we're withholding love from the Father, being one with the Father. So we're waiting while denying that we're one with the Father. Yet in the light of divine being, can we be anything other than one with all that is? Can we find a means by which we could be separate from light? Even if we look really hard, to find a means of being separate from infinite light. I must return it, for I want it mine in full awareness. To take back what I've cast away. And see that I have all the power to do so. Jesus, is there any desire for an experience in which I do not have the power to be love now? Can I find a means within the light, infinite light of being, not to be whole and complete now? Even if I want to, even if I want every asteroid belt of ideas, 1,000 billions of ideas, can I not be whole and complete? Is it possible? This is light training. See that nothing comes before the light of being other than that which is desired to attempt to obscure it. Yet even if there's a desire to obscure it, can it be obscured? This is what Jesus is calling insanity. The desire to have an experience in which light, which is always here, whether we like it or not, is obscure to us. Jesus, please show me any desire to fend off the light, defense, to have a defense. He was reminding me today how really, and I've said this before, so it's for me to hear again, obviously, that we don't know what the defenses are even. We're so used to, and they're so quick to fend against the light that we even have to ask him that, is this a defense? And he'll go, yep, and admit it. Because if we deny the defense, then we're denying the denial that we're denying that we're infinite light. And it's accepting that we're denying that is the way out. Because it's the avoidance. The whole ego is to avoid that we're denying divinity through projection. So as soon as we accept it with him and see the innocence in it, yes, recognize it. Let the energy of lack, it's all lack, he's reminding me. It's all creating a void and trying to fill it with thoughts and ideas and images. Not to look at the desire for the experience of lack. Jesus, in the light of divine being, is the ego, the desire for an experience of lack. The desire to experience limitation. Yet even this, is it possible in the light of divine being for lack to be true? Is it possible in the light of infinite being for guilt to be true? Can we find guilt? Even if we want it with everything, we ask for guilt. In the light of divine being, can we find guilt anywhere? In honesty of God, in this vast love, can we find it as divine beings that we are when we focus on the light of divine being? Jesus is offering the guilt-free zone. Just look, because if we invest in guilt, then we won't look. Guilt is a means by which we shy away from seeing what's true. We can look so easy as the light of divine being. That's what he's teaching. You have given all your love to me. I must return it. That's where we're feeling that hurt, is when we're not returning the love. And since love of God, and then since giving and receiving are one, we're holding it from ourselves. Jesus, show me any desire below my level of awareness to deny the love of myself, the self, which is myself. To deny extension, which is natural. And usurp the power of God through projecting, trying to project rather than extend. Let love just pour out as it does naturally as divine being. I must return it, for I want it mine in full awareness. This is the only call. Infinite love and full awareness is the light and full awareness when we cease to deny it. Infinite light, infinite love. Just accepting light. That's all it is. Infinite love is accepting infinite light, infinite. Blazing in my mind and keeping it within its kindly light, inviolate. Is the light kindly? Infinite light of being in our direct experience. Can we find a mean bone in the light's body? See how we use these things? Can we find in the light any meanness? Any uncaring? Within its kindly light, inviolate. Is the light inviolate? Impossible to violate. In truth, can the light be violated? In the light of divine being. Beloved. With fear behind. Does the light place the fear behind us? And we look again to see whether fear and infinite light, the divine light of being, can fear and infinite light coexist in our direct experience. How do we know this? The only way is to be infinite light. Is the fear going, there's no fear? Is fear saying there's no fear? So something here must know there's no fear in order to say there's So now we turn our attention to that which knows no fear, to break the habit of the desire for the experience of fear. So we can ask Jesus to show us any desire below our level of awareness to experience fear, to deny the light of divine being. Blazing in my mind and keeping it within its kindly light, blazing, infinite light, blazing. How does that feel? Just blazing infinite light. That feels good. Let that blast out any idea we have of ourselves. With fear behind and only peace ahead. Is there only peace in the light in our direct experience? And look, as divine beings, infinite light know anything other than peace? Can it find it? How still the way your loving son is led along to you. Is the light leading us home in our direct experience as light beings? And is the light the only means for home? Is the light home? The light is home. Does the light know anything other than home? The only way to know we're infinite, it can't come through finite. Can the finite know the infinite in our direct experience? Can something that's limited, the idea of a personal identity, so we can ask the light, in the light of divine being, is the idea of a personal identity limited? So it's a desire to identify with a body. Yet is the light identified with a body? Infinite light, can it find a body in there? The light does not know identification with the body, neither do we. Being the same with light. Are we the same with light? The ego doesn't want to hear that. Are we the same as infinite light? We ask the light. Then the ego comes, no, no, no. It gives about 1,000, the 1,000 reasons to say, no, you're not light. Then we ask Jesus, is that true? Any thought that arises, ask him if that's true, that denies light, and see if it lasts in the light. Can any thought, any denial of divinity last in light? We can see why the course is a required course, and the time we take. The time is the investment to dither around and not to admit, okay, there's only light here. That's it. Ta-da. Light is all there is. We can play in consciousness this way. Yet for those who seek only the kingdom of heaven, that's why it takes so much single-pointed focus to keep asking and to ask the voice for God. See how powerful it is. The voice for the light voice from the light, the way the light can communicate with us because we're so used to thought. But yet we can look in the light of divine being is communication through words in the light of divine being. Does the divine light that's here need to communicate through words? This is merely a device within consciousness to cease to deny light. To cease to deny that all there is light. Your loving Son is led along to you. In every movement, every thought, are we surrounded by light? We are light. Is God with us in everything we do, every thought we have? Even if we say, no, I don't want to see the light, is it still here? Can't create an asteroid belt of thoughts to say no, no, no. But we can have an experience that is very different from the peace of the light through desire, the desire for an asteroid belt of thoughts. Until we're willing to look as the light, with the light, as Jesus says at first, with the Holy Spirit, which is the light within us, to see. Let's just look in the light of divine being, the ego turning suspicious to vicious. Is that doing anything to the light? The light of divine being bowing down and going, oh, you're vicious. I'm not looking. In our direct experience, no, we have the power to see this. Brother, we find that stillness now. The way is open. Now we follow it in peace together. Brother, we find that stillness now. Is the light of divine being stillness? You have reached your hand to me, and I will never leave you. Can the light ever leave us? We've asked the light to come back in to our awareness. So it has. Now we just find those ways with Jesus to reveal quickly. Let us join in a moment in light. Give me the minutia that denies the light. Even an asteroid belt is a minutia to Jesus. We can ask. Let's ask. In the light of divine being, is the asteroid belt of thoughts, feelings, emotion minutia to Jesus? To infinite light? Is that of any consequence to infinite light? You have reached your hand to me, and I will never leave you. Is the light, infinite light, the fulfillment of God's promises that we have never left home in our direct experience? We can't prove. Can we prove God exists? Is that who is trying to prove that God exists? What part of consciousness? All of consciousness, actually. It's trying to prove and disprove God at the same time. Through knowledge of objects and things and people. But let's look in the light. Does the light have any knowledge of things? This is knowledge. Knowledge is not of things. Knowledge doesn't, does the knowledge of the light have an of in it? Is it of something? Or is it just is infinite light? As soon as it's of something, there's going to be two. So there's knowledge of object. See how much unhappiness there is in that, Jesus says. And look directly at the unhappiness and all knowledge of something. That's helpful. That's why as soon as we think we know something, it's immediate descent into hell. We can ask the light that. As soon as we think we know something and knowledge of something, is it immediately sent into hell? And hear the light tell. Can't hide from the light. It just clears everything. He was reminding me that too. I've talked about the text and the idea that have arise that Helen wasn't clear. Jesus says she's very clear, even from the get-go. Ego doesn't write those kinds of things down. And how true that writing is to what he was saying. We are one, and it is but this oneness that we seek. So it's turning that seeking, that projection, right? Instead of going outward, we're turning back in, seeking for God and the kingdom. All the energetic, it's out there to it's here now. Yet in the light, we see there's no seeking. Is there seeking in the light of divine being in our direct experience? Yet it is a turning in consciousness. Instead of misuse of consciousness to prove separation, it becomes a use of consciousness to demonstrate that there is actually no consciousness, there's no body. Because we have the power to do so, we created consciousness. Yet as we look in the light of divine being, is consciousness more powerful than light? It may be infinite. Is consciousness infinite? Yes, but it's not more infinite because it's an expression of divine light, which is infinite. But is it more infinite? No. Than divine infinite light. We are one, and it is but this oneness that we seek as we accomplish these few final steps, which will end a journey that has not begun. In the light of divine being, has the journey of an ego ever begun? Can we find that as an experience in the divine light of being? Can we find where the ego starts and ends? Does an ego have any meaning whatsoever to divine light? Can we find that? Is it a match? Does the divine light duke it out with the ego? Divine light's clueless about an ego. That's just like we're clueless about an ego. Unless we pretend to know something about something, knowledge of. Knowledge of what a body is. Does the light know what a body is? The light doesn't know what a sensation is. Does the light know what a sensation is? Does the light know anything other than love in our direct experience? Of sameness with the Father and all that is. Does it look outside of itself for love, try to find itself? I'm starting to hear the song, looking for love in all the wrong places. Does it look for it? Does not look outside itself for love. It just is love, loving love. Is light anything more than love, loving love? And hear the answer. This is where revelation meets the miracle, the willingness to place all within the light of divine being, to see that it cannot stand within it. Quantum forgiveness. The quantum field. That not a single quantum mathematical formula can do anything without a quantum field. No quantum mechanics can work without a quantum field. It's probably just easier, rather than to calculate it, just to be it. To be the quantum field, infinite light. That from which the equations arise. This is true happiness. Do not figure it out. Can we figure out the light? Can it be figured out or known? Recognize true knowledge. This is true knowledge, the only knowledge that there is. Infinite light. So the lessons are merely pointing to light. They're merely pointing to what's already true, whole and complete. With the encouragement to follow that light where it leads, wherever it leads, it's leading to itself. That the journey, there's no journey to take. Yet with the belief in consciousness and journey and the desire for a story, the retranslation by light from the story to one of transcendence, even though there's nothing to transcend. It all points to what's beyond the story. Even the story points back to the light. Does any story point back to light? Can a story exist within consciousness without the light first? It's just the investment in the story. Does the light invest in stories? Does it get entertained by stories? Any stories? Is it looking for entertainment through stories? This is how we discern between infinite light, divine nature, and the play in consciousness to deny divine nature. God is my Father. And his Son loves him. And in truth, his Son knows nothing more than love. In the light of divine being, do we know anything other than love? In direct experience. We may try to divine what love looks like. That's the biggest problem in the world, the definition of love. Ask the light. Is this the biggest challenge in the world? The definition of what love is, how it feels, how love feels. See, it's a feeling. Does divine light know a thing about a feeling for love? Does it define love? Put love in a little box and go, okay, if I'm not feeling this, then I'm not love. Divine light just is. It's not involved in the movements and the definitions and how we feel. It's the totality of all that is. Celebrating itself as God is my Father is what's most natural. And his Son loves him. His Son is love itself as him. Amen.